Boatworks today is sponsored by Total Boat and Alexseal Yacht Coatings, as well as supported by the generosity from the beautiful folks over on Patreon. Thank you so much. All right, I changed my mind. You were right. I was way overthinking this. So welcome back, everybody. Hope you're having a fantastic weekend. My name is Andy with Boatworks today, and this week I'm taking the advice that a number of you made in the last video on how, I guess, the best way to approach making the core of this transom larger. Now, just as a real quick recap, what I was talking about initially was to basically grind down this lip right here so that it's flush coming down, like these corners, and then cut a separate piece of the kusa that would come across through here and then expand over into these wings. Now, something I realized kind of after the fact was that it itself would have created another problem. But the suggestion that a number of people made last week was to, rather than grind this down, just build this up. I mean, it's going to take a lot of glass to build this up. This is going to have to be built up almost, half, 3/4 of an inch, which is going to be about 18 layers of glass. But at the end of the day, I honestly think that's going to be the fastest and easiest way to get this done and get it done right. Now, before I can get started, I have a fair amount of prep work that needs to get done, which is going to involve cutting a lot of strips of fiberglass. Now, the glass I'm going to be using here is going to be 1708, and for cutting it, I'm going to be using, this thing cracks me up every time, but electric shears. Now, if you're interested in some of these, I'll have a link down below in the description where you can buy these. So I've got the prep work done, and I think I'm about ready to start mixing up some material. Now, overall, when this is all said and done, this is going to end up being a 3-step process. Taking a closer look at the edge where we're going to be doing most of our glass work here, you can see this is all pretty jagged. I already ground all this out. There were a lot of voids in here, and well, it had to go. So the first thing I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be coming in and essentially creating a fillet right in through here, all the way down. And for that, I'm going to be using this. Now, this is the Total Boats. It's their structural repair putty. Basically, it's just a pre-thickened polyester resin that already has some milled glass fibers and a couple of other little goodies in there to give it the consistency so it's not going to run and sag on you. So I'm going to be using this for creating that fillet and just kind of filling in some of the imperfections that are on that surface. Then at that point, I'll be able to start coming in and laying in the glass. Now, because this repair putty is polyester based, the resin I'm going to be using for the glass work is also polyester based. And the neat thing about that is because they're the same base, when I lay up this filler, I can just basically go wet on wet, starting up right away with the glass. I don't need to let it set up. You can go poly on top of poly all day long. That's not a problem. Now, if I were going to be doing or using epoxy for the glass work, now that'd be a different story. But I'm not. So let me get gloved up here and get this putty mixed up and start troweling this in. So far, I think I've lost track of here a little bit, but I think I got like 6, 7, maybe 8 layers of 1708 all the way across the top here. Now, I kind of like to limit my, how much glass I lay up all at once, just because polyester resin, just like most of the other resins, when they start to cure, they put off an exothermic reaction, so they get hot. And basically, the more material you have, or the thicker that laminate, whatever it is that you're doing, the thicker that is, the more heat it creates. So just kind of my general rule. I'm sure I could probably push it a little bit more, but I like to basically limit myself to like 6 or 7 layers at a time, and I'll give it 20, 30 minutes to kind of start. Well, I can already feel the heat flashing off here, or kicking off of this. But I like to, I'll get my 6 or 7 layers up, and then I'll walk away for 20, 30 minutes, let it start to do its thing. Then I'll come back and I can start dogpiling more glass on here. It just kind of staggers the point at which the resin's going to be at its peak when it's doing its curing process. So let me flip this around. Let me show you how things are looking so far. Okay, so here's across the top here. Now in the middle, this is actually starting to get fairly close. I'm probably going to do another 6 layers there. But then as you get out more towards the sides here, well, that's going to need quite a bit more material. So for right now, I'm going to let the center kind of do its thing for a little bit more, and I'm going to focus my attention on these corners. And again, there I'll probably start laying up maybe another 6, 7, 8 layers, and then I'll give this another break. So good morning. By the time I finished laying up all the glass last night, it was getting pretty late, so I just decided to check out for the night. But I am dying to see how it turned out, and well, specifically what kind of punching around I'm going to have to do this morning to get it where I want it to be. Well, I will say one thing. I'm really glad I had all this plastic laid down. That would have made a hell of a mess. But anyways, focusing up on the top here, which is primarily where we were working on last night. So that's just kind of a real quick look. Now, the real question that I'm going to be curious to see is how things are going to line up from this straight edge. And so far, at least right there, that looks really, really good. Any kind of filling that I have to do in through here is going to be kept to a minimum. A little thicker there. Actually, I might just need to take a little bit off this bottom here. So to be quite honest, I mean, this turned out about as good as I could have hoped for, I guess. I do have a little bit of filling that I need to do here because I want to build this area that we were glassing. I wanted to build that up flush with this with this top area. And I've also got a little bit of filling to do along these sides here. Not much. It's just maybe about 3/4 of an inch in width, but I do need to build it up about 1/2 of an inch in thickness. So for doing this build-up, what I'm going to be using here again is going to be the structural repair putty. Now, there's a couple of reasons for that. The primary one being, well, it's a polyester, it's going to be a much faster cure than, say, like an epoxy-based. But specifically, because I did all the glass work here using a laminating poly resin, I can go over top of it right now directly with this without having to do any sanding. A laminating surface is ready to go. So less sanding. That makes me happy. So let me get some of this mixed up and get this troweled in, and then we gotta let it bake and do its thing. So now, when I'm working with materials like this, I'm primarily going to be using this as essentially like a filler. generally speaking, I like to try and limit the thickness that I'm going to get this laid up. I like to try and limit that thickness to, well, around 1/4 of an inch, typically max, which for the most part on this, that's kind of where it's going to be. It's going to be 1/4 inch or less. Now, there are going to be a couple of areas where it's going to be a little bit thicker. Probably looks like it's going to be pushing a little bit closer to like 1/2 inch in thickness. Now, typically what I would do is lay up some more glass and just fill in those areas just to build them up a little bit more. But when this is all said and done, I'm going to be going over top of this with Kusa as well as quite a few more layers of glass. So it's just going to be a thin little build strip that's basically just going to be encased in glass. So because of that, I'm not overly concerned about it being a little bit on the thick side in areas. So I think it'll be all right. So it has been about 3 hours since I laid this up, which is a little bit longer than what I was hoping for, but evidently one of two things happened. It's either a little cooler in the shop than normal, or I didn't mix it quite as hot as I thought I did. So anywho, doesn't matter, it's set up. It's not fully cured, but it's set up. Now, one thing about this structural putty is it uses a laminating type base, so it doesn't have any kind of like a wax or anything in there. So in order for this material to fully cure, you have to go over top of it with something. And I've covered this many times in the past. Something that contains wax or PVA. And in my case, I'm going to do another skim coat of this repair putty because although for the most part, this area down here, it's where I need it to be. There are some low spots, and I want it to be as close to perfectly flush as possible. But I'm going to go over another skim coat with this repair putty. Then I'm going to be hands off again for, I'm going to mix it a little bit hotter, hopefully closer to like an hour, maybe an hour and a half. And then I'm going to go over top of it with one of my favorites, way to cure this stuff, which is going to be using some gel coat that contains wax. So now we wait. Hopefully not 3 hours, but so now we wait. All right, so it did not take 3 hours, but it wasn't far off from that. So by the time that happened, it was already late last night, so I just came in and basically coated everything with gel coat. So as of this morning, everything is fully cured and ready to sand. Now, I've seen this done before online, but I've never tried it, so I don't know if it actually works or not, but let's give it a shot. I love it when that happens. Well, it's not perfect, but it's close. It's close enough. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be perfect at this stage of the process. There's a few more steps to actually get it to where it really needs to be, but you know what? Rather than me rambling, let me just show you how this looks like. Okay, now right up at the top here, that's a little bit proud, but it's sticking out a little bit. So this is going to be an easy fix. When I get all this tabbing in, I'll be able to come in and just basically sand down this Kusa a little bit just to knock this little lip off, and then this part right through here. That'll be good. But the sides, I think, are going to work out really, really well. And overall, the top is going to work as well. Check out this other side. Ooh, yeah. Yeah, the Kuso will be able to form that little bit of curve. And again, looking at the top, that'll do. That'll do. So I've got a little bit of messing around here to actually get it where it really needs to be before I can start glassing. But before any of that happens, the next step is going to be actually getting this Kusa epoxied down in place. Then I can do the tabbing around there, and then any little final tweaking and shaping, and then I can start laying glass. But that, unfortunately, is going to have to wait until next week because it's already Saturday and I'm out of time for the week. So, as always, I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found it interesting. And if you did, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're not already subscribed, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell. Thank you in advance. I really appreciate that. If you have any questions, comments, please leave those down below. And as always, thank you for your time. Thanks for watching. And I'm going to go home to my 11-year-old's birthday party. See you next week. Thanks.
This has been a Boatworks Today production.